You are sitting in the passenger seat of a rideshare car at 4:51 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. The driver has the heat on too high. There's a pine tree air freshener hanging from the mirror, swinging slightly every time he changes lanes. You have your phone face down on your thigh. You haven't turned it over in 11 minutes. The wire cleared at 4:39 p.m. You know this because your attorney sent a single text. No exclamation point, just the words, confirmed. $300 million. Call me when you're ready. You read it once, put the phone face down, and told the driver you were good when he asked if the temperature was okay. You are not good or not good. You are just here in a warm car that smells like synthetic pine, watching the city move past the window the same way it moved past yesterday, when you had a company instead of a number. The driver takes the exit toward your apartment. The one you've lived in for 4 years. The one with the broken tile in the bathroom you keep meaning to fix. Rent is $2,340 a month. You paid it this morning out of habit before the call with your attorney, before the final signature, before any of this became real in the legal sense. You think about the tile. You think about whether you should fix it now. You don't know why that's the thing you're thinking about. But it is. The system you were born into. You grew up in a house in Fresno where the kitchen table had 4 chairs but only 3 that matched. Your mother worked the front desk at a dental office from 7:30 to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, and picked up Saturday shifts at a dry cleaner 2 blocks east when the transmission on the Camry needed work. Your father drove for a regional trucking company. He left before you woke up. He came home after dinner. You knew he was there because his boots were by the door and the house smelled faintly of diesel and hand soap. Nobody talked about money directly. It was more like weather. You felt it in the pressure changes. The way your mother went quiet on the 19th of every month. The way your father ate faster when he was stressed, like finishing the plate was something he could control when nothing else was. There was a drawer in the kitchen. Second one down on the left. That's where the bills went. You were never told not to open it. You just knew. 13, you opened it once. Electric. Yes. A Visa with a balance of $4,400 at 22.99% APR. A handwritten note with numbers your mother had added and crossed out and added again. You closed the drawer and went back to your room and sat on the floor for a while without doing anything. The defining moment didn't announce itself. It was a Tuesday in November. You were 15. Your school had a model UN trip to San Francisco, 3 days, 2 nights, $385 per student. Your mother filled out the interest form, then didn't submit it. You found it folded inside a library book she returned. She had written your name at the top in blue pen and then stopped. You didn't say anything to her about it. You just understood, quietly and completely, that the ceiling wasn't made of talent or effort. It was made of something more structural than that. And understanding a ceiling is the first step toward deciding what to do about it. You didn't tell anyone what you decided. The invisible years. You left Fresno at 18 on a partial scholarship and $7,200 in federal loans. You studied computer science at a state school in Sacramento, shared a 2-bedroom with 3 other people, and worked 22 hours a week at the campus IT help desk making $11.50 an hour. You ate the same 4 meals on rotation. Not because you were disciplined about nutrition, because 4 meals meant 4 decisions and you only had bandwidth for so many. You graduated with $31,000 in debt and took a junior developer role at a mid-sized SaaS company in the East Bay making $67,000 a year. It was fine. You were good at it. Nobody noticed how good, which was also fine. On weeknights, after 9 p.m., you worked on something else. A tool you'd been building quietly for 14 months, a workflow automation layer that solved a specific problem in B2B inventory management that the large platforms had ignored because it wasn't sexy enough to prioritize. You weren't trying to disrupt anything. You just noticed the gap existed and that people were losing money because of it. You launched it quietly in March with no press release and no LinkedIn post. 11 businesses signed up in the first 60 days at $340 a month each. You did not celebrate. You noted the number, paid your estimated taxes, and kept working. By month 18, you had 94 clients and one contractor helping with support. Monthly recurring revenue was $31,960. You left the East Bay job on a Thursday, gave 2 weeks' notice, and the team threw you a small goodbye lunch at a Thai place on University Avenue. You ordered the $13.50 pad CEW. You did not tell them what the software was making. The social invitations had already mostly stopped by then. Not dramatically, just the accumulation of too many declined happy hours, too many unanswered group texts, too many times you said you were busy when you were actually sitting at a secondhand desk at 11 p.m. watching usage data refresh. In year 3, you lost a major client, a regional distributor out of Phoenix who represented $8,500 a month, because a larger competitor undercut you on price and offered an enterprise integration you hadn't built yet. You found out on a Friday. You didn't tell anyone. You spent the weekend rebuilding the integration and had it live by Monday morning. The client didn't come back. You built it anyway. By year 5, annual recurring revenue crossed $4.1 million. You raised a small Series A $6.2 million from a firm in Austin that found you through a cold inbound. You met them twice. You wore the same blazer both times. They wired the money and you went back to work. The performer. There's a founder you've seen at 3 different events over the past 2 years. His name is something like Brandon or Brennan. You can never remember which. He wears raw denim that costs more than your first month's rent in Sacramento. He drives a white Tesla Model S with a custom wrap matte finish, some kind of charcoal gradient. He talks about his cap table the way some people talk about their children. Proudly, with specifics, unprompted. At a dinner in October, he asked what you built. You told him, inventory workflow automation, B2B, boring sector. He nodded the way people nod when they've already moved on inside their head. He asked what your ARR was and you gave him a number 2 years out of date. He made a face that was technically a smile and turned toward the person on his other side. You drank your water. You talked to 2 people you actually wanted to talk to. You left before 8:30. In the parking lot, you sat in your 2017 Accord for a minute before starting the engine. The kind of car that disappears in any parking lot in America. You'd paid $19,400 for it in cash 4 years ago and spent nothing on it except oil changes and 1 set of tires. Brandon or Brennan was still inside, performing, working the room. You started the engine and drove home. The thing about being underestimated is that nobody follows you. Nobody tracks what you're building. Nobody asks questions you don't want to answer. You move completely free of observation, and that freedom compounds the same way money does, quietly, invisibly, and faster than anyone watching from the outside would believe. $300 million in a warm car. The number itself is $300 million. After tax structuring, after attorney fees, after the equity split with your 2 early contractors who you gave shares to in year 2 because it was the right thing to do and you knew it then, your personal take is $218 million. You know this because your attorney emailed a 1-page summary at 4:44 p.m. You read it in the back of the rideshare. The driver was taking the long route because of construction on Market Street. The Pine air freshener swung left, then right. You read the summary once. You put the phone face down again. Outside the window, a woman was unloading a stroller from the trunk of a Subaru. A man in a gray jacket was eating a sandwich on a bench. A city bus pulled away from a stop and left a cloud of exhaust that dissolved in about 4 seconds. None of it shifted. None of it acknowledged anything. You thought about the Model UN trip, the $385 you never went on. You thought about your mother's handwriting at the top of the form, your full name, first and last, in blue ink, and the fact that she had gotten that far and then stopped. $385. $218 million. The math between those 2 numbers is 13 years of Tuesday nights and 1 drawer full of bills you were never supposed to open. The rideshare pulled up to your building. You tipped the driver $6 through the app. You went upstairs. You stood in the kitchen for a while. The broken tile was still broken. You made a cup of tea you didn't drink. The cost nobody counts. Your mother doesn't know the number. She knows the company sold. You told her that much on a Sunday call 3 weeks ago. She said she was proud of you in the quiet way she says things. Not with volume, but with the specific weight of someone who spent decades hoping and wasn't sure it would land. You didn't tell her the number because you didn't know yet how to give someone money without changing what you are to them. You had watched it happen to other people. The dynamic shifts. The calls change texture. You become the solution to problems instead of a person navigating them alongside somebody else. So you haven't told her yet. What you did 2 months ago was find out what her mortgage balance was. $74,200 remaining on a 6.8% rate. You called her bank, confirmed the payoff amount, and wired it from an LLC she doesn't know you own. The statement she received said the balance was zero. She called you confused and slightly alarmed. You told her it was probably an error she should enjoy. She laughed. The real kind. You sat with the phone pressed against your ear and listened to your mother laugh about her mortgage being paid off, and you said almost nothing, and it was the closest to okay you had felt in the entire year. But there's a specific loneliness in building something this large in silence. Your 2 oldest friends from Fresno, Marcus and Diana, are living lives that no longer share vocabulary with yours. Not because they failed. Marcus teaches. Diana runs a nonprofit. They are good people living complete lives. But the distance isn't hostile. It's just real. The problems don't overlap anymore. The language between you was built for a different set of coordinates. At Marcus's birthday dinner in July, someone made a joke about rich tech people. Everyone laughed. You laughed too, a half-beat late, in that specific way where you need the extra second to figure out which version of yourself is sitting at the table. Nobody noticed. That's the part that doesn't get easier. Not the money and not the silence. It's the specific weight of having moved so far from where you started that you can no longer see it clearly, and yet it's still the only place that ever felt entirely like home. What the tile is actually about. 3 days after the wire cleared, you fixed the bathroom tile. You went to a hardware store on a Wednesday morning. You bought grout, a small float, a bottle of cleaner. $23.11 total. You paid cash. You spent 40 minutes on the bathroom floor doing something that had nothing to do with software or cap tables or wire transfers. When you finished, you sat back and looked at it. It looked like a floor. Exactly like a floor. And you understood something you couldn't have explained to anyone who hadn't lived it. That the tile was never actually about the tile. It was about the part of you that kept filing things away for later, kept saying that's next month's problem, kept running forward so hard that the ordinary maintenance of a life kept accumulating behind you like a drawer full of unopened bills. The number didn't fix that. The number just made it quieter. What you're still sitting with on the floor of a bathroom in an apartment you can now buy the building of without feeling it, is the question your mother's handwriting keeps asking you. Not the trip. Not the $385. Just her stopping mid-sentence. Just the name written at the top of a form that never got submitted. You know what you built. You know what it cost. What you're still learning is what it was actually for.